assume that we're good to go. So this is a committee meeting, Parks, Recreation, Streets, and Infrastructure. Our agenda for today, we're talking about basketball hoops at Waterworks Park. And we got some news on that, some stuff I want to share with everybody. And after that, we're going to talk about the Adopt a Park program that we are working on. We've got Donna Lake here who will talk about that. So, Lieutenant, do you want to come on up here?
Sure. Where do you want?
Oh, just any old microphone.
Okay.
Ron Murphy is here, Lieutenant Ron Murphy from Norwood Police Department.
These are all working?
I think so, yeah.
Great.
So, a little background for people who may be listening in it at home. Norwood for quite a while hasn't had basketball hoops up at its parks, and there was a desire from a lot of residents to potentially put hoops back up again, so that kids and anybody else who wanted to enjoy that part of our park could do that. So wanted to find a way to kind of do a trial run on some basketball hoops, and a long while back, I saw somebody recommended Waterworks Park. I reached out to the police department and to Safety Service Director to get their opinions on getting hoops back up at Waterworks Park, what was wrong with them to begin with. I'll share that so we get grounded on where we were and the kind of things we want to make sure don't happen as we move forward. So I'll just go in. I'll just cover off. This is from Joseph Gears, our Safety Service Director. I just touch on a couple of points. When the last time that the courts were in use, they put in new lighting, new fencing, put in all 4 backboards and rims. Everything went well. I'm paraphrasing here until one backboard and rim was damaged over the summer. Eventually, all 4 backboards and rims were damaged. They replaced them in the spring, and then they got damaged again due to people hanging on the rims or vandalism, whatever. There are also complaints of loud music, profanity, drinking, arguments on the courts and stuff. So there were legit reasons for removing the hoops at the time. However, want to try to find some way to move forward on this, and I'm happy to say that Mayor called me today and said that he and the Safety Service Director would be willing to go ahead and let us put the hoops up on trial basis, which is great news. So we would have to figure out how to fund it to get the stuff up. So that's kind of where we are. So Lieutenant Murphy, we kind of, I guess we can use a little bit of time now to discuss kind of things. We want to do it in cooperation with the police department so we can make sure that these kind of things don't happen again or minimally happen. So, and wondered if you had some thoughts on that.
Yeah. Well, first off, let me say it's sad that they're not up, so I'm glad that they're getting put back up. I mean, some of my fondest memories, I played a lot of basketball at Waterworks Park, so going down there in the summer and both courts were full, it was always a good time. But there were a lot of problems, though. So when people say that, you know, the administration doesn't care about kids or that, none of that is true. Most of these basketball courts, really other than Waterworks, were in outlying areas in small neighborhoods, Northwoods Park, Fenwick Park, at the edges almost of the corp lines, Millcrest Park, for instance. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of criminal activity going on. I mean, there were kids being literally robbed of phones and wallets and stuff while they were there. Mm-hmm. So there was very good reason at one time for safety reasons, along with the vandalism too, which sometimes I don't think was intentional. It was just kids seeing NBA players hang on rims and thinking, well, I can do it too, and then before you know it, the rim's damaged. So, and we're not an NBA team, and we don't have the money to keep replacing the rims as they get torn up. So, I know the police department will be on board. I mean, there's some things I think that should occur. You should get some signage maybe that says something like, just please respect the parks. If you see anybody doing damage or, drinking or things like that, just make people aware, that it is their park, and to take care of it.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I was even thinking just like, you go to the pool and there's
A list
big
of
bold
rules,
letters,
yeah.
rules of the pool, the things you do and don't do in the pool. I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't establish a set of rules for that and with a number to call if you see.
Right. I mean, I'm sure,
wrong.
we'd be fine as an organization to have the police non-emergency line, because who would
You'd
be
be
coming
calling.
down there to deal with if somebody was doing damage and destruction, so.
Right.
And then we would make regular patrols, we always did, when the parks were there, but again, the ones on the extreme outlying areas, I mean, you just didn't have to go through there very often, because Millcrest Park, was up on top. I don't know if you remember it. It was back behind there. You didn't even know kids were back there.
Right.
So, but Waterworks would be great, because a good first step, because it's usually crowded down there, and it's not way far out of the way. I mean, a lot of people walk down there at the track and everything. So it's always got a good mix of people there that hopefully will be able to keep their eye on any persons that might be there doing damage to the parks.
Right. I know a lot of citizens want this too, and have reached out and said that they're going to will keep an eye on it too. So all of this is good news. It's we're going to be able to move forward with this. We have to again, we have to figure out funding for it. I don't know if this is something we want to see if we can find room from the city, or if we can get.
How much money it costs to include?
I don't.
I might know of something, I don't want to say.
Okay, no, I don't know how much it would cost. I would honestly, Mr. Murphy, you can probably speak to this too, but I know that they do make backboards and rims specifically for outdoor parks, like those double.
Right. They do
rims
make, they make some.
that are like really, really strong and
Right.
sturdy, which if we're going to have to purchase new ones, I kind of want to get ones that
Right.
will help prevent the kind of damage that occurred in the first place.
And I know the police department and the fire department both run not-for-profits. So, I mean, might be something that I could talk to our membership and then just get the firemen on board too. Maybe it's something
Maybe
we
I
can
could
help
donate
out
them
with, you know.
Okay, great.
We could each buy two, maybe. We'll see. I mean, without knowing how much they cost, I
Oh,
don't
of
want
course.
to say for sure. But, I mean, we try to do things throughout the year with our money that helps the citizens. So that would be a logical step.
Yeah. I'll do some research on costs
Right.
for the 4 backboards and 4 hoops.
I would like to say I would get them, like, when we got some playground equipment for certain parks, they called it NYC talk. It was like
Right.
New York City talk, like if you put it
Yeah.
in downtown Manhattan or whatever, New York City, it was gonna survive. So, I mean, I would not cheat this, I would try to get the.
Right, we want to
Yeah.
get the,
Like I said,
and-
there are some nonprofits who are, if you spin this as for the health of the city and getting people out, there's potentially some grants that you could get for that.
right, that's good to know.
Out of a lot of.
So that'll be next step, and so we can craft rules for it. I want to make sure that as we move forward with this and we actually get the hoops up, we're setting ourselves up for success, and not a repeat of what happened before. Because if what happened before happens again, I don't know in good conscience if I could suggest
Sure.
continuing to do it. This is a trial. We want to see if it's going to work. We want it to work,
Right.
but this is what we're left with, a chance to make it work. And so I want to set us up for the best success possible. So, having the police department on board, doing checks and getting some rules established, and hopefully having concerned neighbors and citizens keeping an eye on things. I'm hoping these kinds of steps will help make it successful. Any thoughts, Ms. Henry?
I just believe this is a great start. Got to start somewhere.
I think it can be a good thing. I know that there are a lot of kids who are wanting this, and this, it'll be great to be able to give them this opportunity.
I had also suggested at the last meeting, in the future, when we have a little more funding, getting a camera. And
Yeah, I mean, a camera would definitely help. I mean, well, not in a sense of literally helping, but the fact that people would think, oh, I better not mess around because it could be captured.
Right.
So,
Yeah, well, that's something we can even look into as part of the cost of getting the courts set back up, is can we get enough potential donation, grant for, or I know you and I had talked about potentially asking the school, since it's right down there next to the stadium, they might be interested.
I know
in helping.
there are cameras, I believe, at Waterworks Park. There used to be.
Yeah.
But at the pool, I mean, like,
Right.
because it was on the back end, but I'm not sure if those are still functioning or not. So there is a system down there in place. I don't know how to tie, if you could tie into that or not. But
All right.
the cameras would be huge. I don't know what other municipalities do to make sure there's not, vandalism and stuff. I mean, the Oakley courts there, right on Paxton Avenue, have been there forever,
Right.
with the tennis courts, and they seem to do just fine there.
I have friends in Norwood who go over there to play
Yeah.
basketball.
Right.
So, like to bring it home.
Right.
All right. If anybody else doesn't have anything to say there, thanks so much
Thank you.
for stopping
No,
by.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And
And,
I'll reach out to the fire association and our police members and see.
Okay, great. And I'll look into costs, and I'll get
Okay.
back to you and
All right.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, Donna. President of Council, Donna Lake is here. She's gonna talk with us about the Adopt a Park program, and where we are with that. The plan was to develop a program where businesses and the community could adopt a park, and what needed to be done to actually make that happen. So Greg Oros put together this fantastic packet of information, as well as all the forms and releases that we would need to have somebody do in order to actually do this.
So I guess it all started when Marilyn Hanahan and Brandon Blair reached out to Multicolor over on Beach, and they wanted to do something at Doral Field because it was their front yard. And so Marilyn and Brandon arranged a meeting, and Mr. Gears was there, and I was there, Greg was there, and so they have done some work, quite a bit of work there. And I believe, didn't they also help pay for the fence at Marsh Park? Was that them? At Marsh Park? So there was no formal way of like saying, well, like maybe we could reach out to them and have them do something ongoing at Doral Field, to maintain those flowers in the flower bed, or to mulch that flower bed, or to weed around the trees that were planted around Doral Field. And so the tree board kind of went to Greg and said, is there any way that we can come up with some kind of a packet, because people would ask us, can I adopt this area, or can I do this or that? And there was no formal way. Nobody knew, like, okay, is it okay if the tree board says it's okay, or do we need to go to Mr. Gears? And so there was actually no formal way. So the tree board just asked Greg if he could come up with an Adopt a Park program. And so he got some information from other communities and kind of made it Norwood appropriate, because he knew what parks and things were available. And so he goes into, and we've tweaked this a couple of times, and there are, what you have here is a draft, there are some typos, and I'm certainly not going to go through that, but he talks about why you can do it and the purpose and all that, the benefits. and the things that you can do and why it's important, not only that individually, but as a community. And so there are some requirements and expectations that you would fill out an application as to what park or what area or what trail or whatever it could be, as much as just maybe I only want to adopt a certain area in Lindner Park, like I'll be responsible for that. So it's an application. If it's an organization, there has to be a spokesperson for that organization. There has to be a point person, so we know who to go to and who's responsible. And if you say you're going to adopt it, then it's going to be that you should be there a minimum of once a month. We want you on there on a regular basis to do whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's to cut grass or weed or mulch or plant or do those kinds of things. It is also a way for those folks to report back to the city anything that is untoward, anything that's broken. You know, many times they'll complain to other people, but we don't know that swings might be broken, or like a baby swing might have a piece that's exposed, and unless you go out and inspect those, we might not know that for a number of months. So there's also a way to report back any kind of vandalism or graffiti or things that might need repair. There's a list of areas, and then when you do the application, it's sent into Mr. Orris, Greg Orris, and the planning department. He reviews it, and Mr. Gears and the administration was concerned. They wanted to know what was going on and who was doing what, and so this is a way of reporting to them what people would like to do, who is in charge and how often they're going to be there, and they sign a release of liability, and there's a code of ethics, a code of conduct that we expect that you're respectful to people, and that you don't discriminate against people and things like that. And then there's a report that comes back every month about how many hours have been spent by whom in that park. I think people will be amazed once we document how much time people actually spend in the parks volunteering, because right now people just do it and there's not documentation. And so there's a list of every person. You're supposed to list every person, how many hours they've spent in that area that month. And then if there's anything that is of a major undertaking, like if you want to install a piece of equipment, or if you want to paint or something like that, or if you want to do major pruning or something that might require a city follow-up or whatever, that is like a advanced task request form that needs to get approval from the city first before you do that. If people don't want to adopt with their time, it also allows for like a park trust to be set up, that organizations or individuals or businesses could donate to this park trust, because we know, well, I know, you all might not know, the community development block grant funds are getting harder and harder to designate, because those community development block grant funds are designated for low to moderate income, and there are shrinking areas in the city where those dollars can be spent. So there are some parks who will never be eligible for park equipment from community development block grant funds unless it is specifically handicap accessible equipment, similar to what was put into Marsh Park. So it's I think it's a good program. He lists all the parks, pocket parks and otherwise, Montgomery Road. I think there are even smaller areas if people would decide, I just want to do this little circle on Park Avenue or whatever. I think it would certainly apply to that, so that it can be individuals or families as well as all the way up to large corporations who may want to adopt a park. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I've talked to the mayor and Mr. Gears about it. They are both on board. They both like the fact that they're going to know what's going on ahead of time. They like the fact that there is a report back, that they'll know what's going on or what has happened. I am not certain, and I didn't check with Greg, I am not certain if our law department has reviewed it for the liability and release. I would think so, but I can't attest to that. So that would be one of my suggestions, is that
I'll follow up with
make sure that the law department reviews it. And I can forward that, or you can forward that on, you're the chairman, you can forward that on to Mr. Gary or Mr. Moore. But I would certainly get their sign off on it before we go with this. Like I said, should have been an English, my kids said I should have been an English major, so I have all kinds of typos and circles here.
I'm a designer, so I miss every single typo and cause many more. This is great. I'm so happy that we're able to move forward this. One of the things I like about this is I remember even in campaigning, one of the things people tell me is like, who do we go to when we want to volunteer or when we want to help? And this gives us a very concrete, in print way and process for people to do exactly that, and gives us a way to document it and to keep track of it. And I think it's a great plan and could be a great thing for our parks.
Like I said, the tree board's been, primarily Greg, but the tree board asked Greg to do it, but he's been working on it for many, many months. Probably even last year started on it, and we've kind of tweaked it here and there. So we were really anxious to get it going. And you all saw what happened at Northwoods when you put out the word that you need to get volunteers. There are
Right.
people who are willing, more than willing to help.
Right.
So I think if we can advertise this, hopefully, I think there will be people who will come out and,
Yeah, I think so too.
families or whatever, and hopefully we can get some businesses to do it. It's a way to formalize what Multicolor had done in the past, and hopefully we'll do again in the future.
I'd like to thank them again.
Yes. Well, you and Mr. Blair were the ones who
Well, thank you.
cultivated
You
that.
were right there.
But you
right
cultivated
there,
that. You cultivated that, so.
I think I was working today and I didn't have a chance to go over this, but I mean, I just skimmed through it right now and it looks great. I think it's a great way to get things started, and I would like to see, hopefully, if we can get them cleaned up and if we can get this going, to even go a step further. I know last year I had asked the rec department to get me a list of all the stuff they needed in the park and what it would take. Well, I know how busy they are, I understand that. But, it came back mulch for this and stuff like that. But I'd like to think a little broader, and I'd like to think about what's it going to cost? Is it possible in a few years to open a pool? What's needed at the pools? And I think that's something that we should look at and see. I mean, maybe some of them can't be opened and they need filled in. But I think if we had a record or had some kind of idea of what each park needed, and we had talked about going from park to park and doing our own.
Kind of a wish list, yeah, sort of. Well, there's a really good possibility that a business might see this and come and say, we want to help, you tell us what
Right.
needs to. And so if we had some
Ideas
plans or
what we need.
ideas of
Right.
what we needed to be able to point.
And then somewhere
to that,
in
I think
here,
that would
I'm
be
looking
great.
where it is, it talks about like you can do just a one-time park cleanup, or you can do it on an ongoing, like you can just do a single event, like say a company just wants to do a one-day event, or if you want to adopt something all year round. But it also talks about, here it is, that you might want to make a financial contribution towards maintenance supplies such as mulch paint, or to purchase improvement items off of the City of Norwood wish list, such as benches, picnic tables. So we could adopt that list of things, you all or the city jointly with Public Works and the Parks crew could make a list of the things that, let's make our wish list. And if somebody comes and says, what do you need for the parks? We've got a list ready-made,
Right.
so that they know exactly what they could potentially do. When Mr. Shepherd gave us the 100 trees, he wanted to know exactly where those trees were going to go. He wanted a plan. And so I think people who are going to give you money are going to want to know exactly what they're going to purchase and where it's going to be.
And I think a plan would be good. And I mean, and we were planning on it, because if you're going to be, like you say, if we go to someone and offer or show them the program, hey, we need you to fund a new pool. I can think big.
And what's really nice about it is that Mr. Orris has agreed to organize the program, because that's huge to have somebody in the city do it. As you all know, people are stretched so thin. Nobody has time to do anything, hardly anything extra. And so with him taking responsibility for that, that's a huge step forward, that there's a point person to come to.
Right, absolutely.
And we might have somebody in the neighborhood who'd want to go with us if their kids play down there and say, this would be, we'd like to see this. Not that we can give everything, but that might be a way to get, because I know I've had residents say that they'd like to get involved in doing it. And I told them we were putting something together and we were talking about it.
A few years ago, the people up in Crest and Northwood's just we called the mayor and said, we're going to paint the shelter house. Is that okay? Okay. So we did that, and, we've done we've just called somebody and say, is it okay if we do this? And usually it's okay, but, they want to know ahead of time, like, what color are you going to paint it and who's going to do what? But, I think if now that we've started doing a few playgrounds, like, I think the people that live around Marsh Park are really proud of that park. You see more kids in there, and I think, if we do Halloween in the park, and the park crew was just really busy and didn't get the grass mowed last year. So we got the mower brigade, all the guys in the neighborhood just went and mowed the park. So, so I think if you start giving people an opportunity to adopt something and to make it their own, then I think, they take pride in it, and hopefully they'll get more and more people involved in the parks and get more people out. Hopefully it'll pave the way for other programs to help people in the neighborhoods too. But
right. No, this is a good trial, a good experiment on this kind of program that can be broadened out to, like you said, to other kinds of community involvement, volunteer programs. So just to recap, we'll follow up with the law department with this and make sure they're okay with it. We'll do a spell check and review on it to make sure we catch all of those things. And then we'll start creating a wish list for not just the basics, but what would be great, I think, is kind of what, like, I know that Greg has drawings of things he thinks would be great too.
We got plans. Yeah, he has plans for everything.
So, and tree board, and so, that's one of the things I'd hope would happen is with this committee is that we could start bringing all the different efforts that were happening within the city and the different boards and the different groups together and into working in parallel. And this is going to be a huge help in doing that. So a lot of thanks to Tree Board for getting it started, you, Marilyn, and for stuff with multi-craft, and especially Greg for putting all of this together, because there's a lot of work that went into this.
I had somebody just the other day say, oh God, I drive down Montgomery Road, it makes me sick to see all the weeds around the trees. And I said, well, get your pruners ready, because I'm going to be coming back to you with this plan, and you're going to adopt those trees going down Montgomery Road. All it takes is one Saturday a month maybe, and you cut all the little suckers off the bottom of the trees and spray your Roundup, and it's amazing what a difference that'll make.
Just an example of, we're calling this an adopted park, but I could see there was a gentleman approached me while I was getting coffee months ago and said that he wanted to paint all the signposts on his block. All the signposts had gotten rusty, and he just wanted to paint black enamel paint to just clean up the look of them. This is a perfect kind of thing where someone can come in.
There's a special kind of paint you have to use.
Yeah, it's a special kind, but but
that we can't use community development block grant funds for anymore, we were told. So.
Right. So, but there's somebody who and was willing to even do the paint.
Right.
So this is the kind of thing where people are going to be able to reach out and really get
I
involved.
think we've always had people who want to volunteer and they don't know what to do. So if we have it sitting right there saying this is what needs to be done, I think we'll get quite a few people.
And it's a liability. I mean, there's definitely liability issues, so you need to have people read and sign this liability form and code of ethics and stuff.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
what you did in your park. I'm sorry, I wasn't there. I had a graduation party going on. But
There were over 80
it was
people there.
amazing how many people came out and Wouldn't it be great to do that for all of them?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it would happen, I think.
Huh?
It would happen at all of the parks, I think.
Oh, I think.
Oh, I
You
think
put
so
out the
too.
SOS, I think that would happen in any park.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, that's all I had planned for this meeting. Any other things we want to talk about? You want to talk about? No? All right. Well, then I say we call this meeting done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.